Yo, man. All right, today's show is about the noble Drew Ali. It's so much to unpack right here. There's so much to unpack right here. Um, all right, man, we need a clean slate. So today's show is sponsored by No Shore Organic. Dirty folks. Dirty folks. Dirty folks. No soul. No soul. All right. Noble Drew Ali, the man, the myth, the legend in hood history. Timothy Drew was born in the late 1800s. Some people say that he was born um, to former slaves and raised as a foster child by Native Americans. Other people say um, he was orphaned and raised by his aunt, uh, who happened to be Native American, which means Noble Drew Ali was Native American. So I want to shout out whoever suggested this video. At least y'all didn't give me a Jamaican this time, man. Shout out to Native American. All right, but then Drew Ali did a bunch of bullshit. Um, did some crimes, got locked up for selling fake medicine because if you can't sell drugs, you ain't black. And when he got out of jail, he came up with religion. I don't want to say that the More Science Temple is a jailhouse religion, but yeah. Anyway, so here's the real spill about the actual religion that Drew Ali came up with. It's kind of in the name, right? It's kind of in the name. You call yourselves the Asiatics. Asia is in the name. So now we're talking about Eastern cultures. We're not even in Africa anymore. Now we're talking about Asian cultures, right? The Asiatic. So let's break down that word real quick. Yo, I'm not even going front. I love when Google talk to me. Say Asiatic.
Asiatic.
I love that stuff. Relating or deriving from Asia, Asiatic coastal regions. Or let's go further into this. Asiatic, an Asian person or a Semite from ancient Canaan, Syria, or Mesopotamia. The term is dated and sometimes offensive. A dated and offensive term, right? Like Negro becoming nigga, right? Asiatic is like calling yourself an Asian nigga. So y'all just Asian. That's crazy. Y'all find a way to be a nigga in every language. That's hilarious. But even more important, a Semite. Who are the Semites, right? The tiny hat people. So, all right. So then on top of that, he said he met somebody who told him that who taught him about the Egyptian religions. Now, Egypt is a Semite land, um, which is where you get when you guys talk about that you Hebrew Israelite and y'all of Egyptian. That's why they call it anti-Semitic because Semite is not only a land, but it's a language. Semite is a language and a people, but not just one type of people. There's a lot of different religions and cultures that are part of the Semite region using the Semite linguistics, right? Semite is a language. It's kind of a people, but it's a language. Like England, they speak English in England, but there's a lot of different places that speak English. It's kind of like that. Anyway, so then he was told that man that he looked like Jesus and Moses and and Muhammad. He was like, I look like Muhammad. Oh man, woo woo. So here's the thing. All of those people are Arabic. They come from Mecca. Mecca is in the middle of Saudi Arabia. It has always been the sand people. Always, bro. It's always been the sand people. Um, and because of the region they were from, they were called the Moors because they said they looked like Algerians and Moroccans. and all that. So the whole thing about the Moorish people, you know what? I'm gonna let them say it.
Historically, the term Moor was used to refer to people of mixed Arab, Spanish, and Berber ancestry who settled in North Africa between the 11th and 17th centuries. The word comes from the Latin term Moris, which the Romans used to describe the inhabitants of Mauritania province. The Mauritania province encompassed portions of present day Algeria and Morocco. Eventually, Moor was used by Europeans to describe Muslims in general, irregardless of their region of origin.
All right, so Algerian people are also Arab, right? You could also say they Semite people. You can say they tiny hat people, but the Algerian people are like a mixture between the Spanish and the Semites. Like you still don't get black. The only reason that black people even claim to be Moors is because of Mansa Musa. And shout out to Mansa Musa for being rich and a bitch. But now, now I gotta talk about Mansa Musa just to make this make sense. So Mansa Musa ran Timbuktu. He had all this bread from all the gold, and at the around the time that all this was happening, they had the Silk Road. That's another conversation. The Silk Road. So the Silk Road was where everybody got their ins and outs, where they get they do, they do hickey, zoom zooms, and wham whams, right, from all around the world, right. So Mansa Musa decided to take the trip on his own one day, and he spent so much money. He dropped so much gold on his way to Mecca to trade that. Well, let me rewind that. Why he went to Mecca? There was something that I think is very cool. It was called uh I don't want to say it was a Christian tax. Let's just call it a Muslim discount. We're gonna call it a Muslim discount. If you were a worshiper of Islam, you got a discount on everything that you purchased off the Silk Road trade, right? Mansa Musa, even though he was super rich and he was flossing heavy like a 1990s rapper, he still wanted a good discount. So he changed his religion to Islam under the Moorish Act in order to get a discount for the goods the goods he purchased off the Silk Road. So now he had to take the trip to Mecca because if he's going to be a practicing Muslim, then he has to go to Mecca at least one time in his life. That's part of their program. So on his way there, he dropped so much gold that he made inflation for like 10 years everywhere he went, man. He went super deep. He had all the shooters with him. They was buying up every end. They was dropping money. They was splurging heavy. And because Mansa Musa who was black, he actually was black about time. And he was so rich, so he was black and rich, shout out to him. And he spent so money with the Arabs and the whites. That was really kind of sort of the beginning of Europe wanting to conquer Africa because Mansa Musa was flossing too much. Go figure, right? Niggas can't do shit right. But it didn't happen in his lifetime. So he led a great life. Mansa Musa, the nigga, I can't say the N word anymore. Mansa Musa, that dude. Mansa Musa, that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like later generations got conquered because he was flossing too hard. But don't worry about that. He became a Muslim because he wanted a discount on his trades. Okay, cool. So that's where you get more from, right? So they broke it down into two different sects. You had Islam, the Muslims in uh like Saudi Arabia, all that. And then the northern coast of Africa were the Moors. More in their language uh represented olive skinned. So like black olives. And everybody was dark skinned like black olives, oily skin like black olives. So they were called Moors. So that's how you get the Moorish branch linguistically. Linguistic. I'm not talking about the book. I'm talking about linguistically. That's how the blacks in Africa were seen to be Moors because of their skin, but those were because everything about racism, right? So that was the way that they differentiated between the African Muslims and the Arab Islamics, right? Anyway, so back to Noble Drew Ali. So they telling Noble Drew Ali, man, you look like them, and he like, I bet I'm gonna run with it. So I don't know how Drew Ali got the money because he just got out of jail, but he was selling drugs before he went, so he was doing his thing, right? So he was the medicine man. He was the medicine man. He probably had cocaine in the body. He probably made Coca Cola first. Who knows, right? Anyway, so he ends up opening up these temples in Chicago and other places, and started preaching that black people were from Asia and from Africa. They can take over every. Let black people tell it, man. They can tame and teach every other culture except them niggas in Africa. Go figure, right? Man, y'all want to go from Africa? Africa fucked up. And everybody else doing well. Like, oh, we started that. Started an African in it. You know what I'm saying? Shit. If you made hove, make another hove, nigga. Anyway, I digress. So Noble Drew Ali had his own book. It was not the Quran, not the one that Islam uses, because Black Islam ain't the same. Like the FOI and the NOI, they not recognized by Arab Muslims. That's just some black shit in America. So he came up with some off-brand black shit. He plagiarized a few books, a couple Christian books, and he changed the name from Jesus to Allah or God to Allah as he went along. He freestyled that shit, and but it's cool because he wanted to create a culture, right? So, in the reason he wanted to make a culture is because he recognized something in the early 1900s that I recognize today, and that's that white people don't care if you're black. They just don't want you to be a nigga, right? They don't mind if you go to the hospital right now. The hospital is flooded with Kenyans. For some reason, Kenyans come to America and get into medicine. Flooded with Kenyans. They don't mind Kenyans. Once they hear the odododo accent, I ain't trying to make fun of Kenyans, but they got the African accent because they bilingual. And shout out to them, they know two languages, man. That's they might know three. They might know French also. So shout out to them for being linguistic. But knowing all those languages, they have an accent. When white people hear the accent, they don't get scared. They're like, oh, African, not an American nigga. Because they know American niggas listen to girls with clothes on, so they fucked up in the head, right? So it's not about color, it's about culture. And what he wanted to do was create a different culture. But he wanted to create a different culture once again off the backs of other groups. He's Native American. Does he want a Native American culture? Nope. He didn't dwell into the inside of Sitting Bull or Geronimo. He was like, yo, we gonna go Tibetan and everything else. Look, I'm not mad at it because of the times he lived in, but it does frustrate me that black people historically want to be everything else except what they are. That really frustrates me. It's like you hate yourself internally. Anyway, so long story short, Drew Ali went around and he was trying to preach, and because he was doing it based on color, and anybody could be part of his religion. They had no test, there was no certification to be part of his religion. Anybody could join, and niggas sold him out over bitches all the way around this journey, bro. That's all that happened. A bunch of niggas selling them out over bitches and making their own temples and shit like that. And all of his some of his own guys he put in position wanted to take over the the temple from him. And one of the guys who tried to take over the temple, he Drew went out of town for a minute. And when he came back to Chicago, his biggest opponent was dead, right? So of course he got locked up for murder, whatever the case may be, for conspiracy to commit murder. Him and a bunch of other of his guys, and he bonded out. And 3 days after he bonded out, he was found dead in his home. Man, that was crazy. And they said he died from pneumonia or something like that. But people are saying that either the other faction deleted him, or because of the way that it was done, the police deleted him. Because the police put whatever they want to put on a report. So that's the story of Noble Drew Ali, the dude who stole a couple of different religions and said he was from Asia, and um, and somehow part of the Crusades as well. It's crazy. Um, but a lot of the things that get credited to the Moorish science today happened after he was dead. To be honest with you, all the stuff about sovereignty and straw man and all that, a lot of that started in like the 1960s. Drew Ali was already dead by then. All this eminent domain talk and pseudoscience that they use in the name of more science, a lot of that happened after Drew was already dead. As a matter of fact, it was a because after Drew died, it was a bunch of girls that took over the Moorish temple, and they kept sleeping with dudes and marrying dudes, and then another dude who had nothing to do with Moorish temple, but he had good pipe because he was fresh home from jail too, more than likely. You know what I mean? Mamata. And when they transferred the power from men to their widows, and they widows end up with another felon, and people start leaving. So the whole straw man thing kind of sort of happened as a response to the fruit of Islam, right? Or the nation of Islam, if you want to call it that. When Elijah Muhammad came in, and he found a felon, right? Because Elijah came home from jail, and he found a felon by the name of Malcolm Little, who changed his name to Malcolm X. You might have heard of him. And Malcolm Little was such a great orator that he had droves of people trying to join the Nation of Islam, but those would be the same people that would have joined the Moorish Science Temple if it wasn't like 15 Moorish Science Temples after the splinter. So the Moors came up with like the whole pseudo uh, sovereignty thing as an incentive for black people to come back to the Moorish science. Um, I mean, niggas still doing this to this day. White do go to do a Google search for how many Black Wall Streets there are. There's 5 different Black Wall Streets in Chicago by itself, bro. There's a bunch of organizations called Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, then it's Black Wall Street Chicago, then it's Black Wall Street Chicago, Illinois, then it's Black Wall Street, the National Black Wall Street, but it's also in Chicago. Like, bro, motherfuckers will take a name and just run with it, bro. They don't be a chapter, they don't be a charter, they don't be shit. Yeah, but like black people can't organize because everybody want to be the man, just cause they don't have a system. Colors play identity politics. They follow the man because they like the message, but they don't follow the message because they hate the messenger that can accomplish the message. Because all y'all movements is based on the whims of weak niggas and bitches. Men that listen to women and women with clothes on. And that's where you get your numbers from. The people who really make the moves to make the moves, they still make the moves, right? The inability of black people to follow a man because they listen to a woman tell them what a man's supposed to be kind of kills all these movements, and is why they splinter so much. To be two guys that come together and say they're gonna do something, and then they get mad at each other. But like, I'm gonna do my own thing. You called yourself the ABC. I'm gonna call myself ABC Inc. And then I'm gonna steal your people. Like, it's some real commoner shit. Anyway, but that's a Noble Drew Ali story. You know what I mean? A black, I don't even want to call him black, to be honest. A Native American who wanted to be an Asian and agreed to submit to Asian rule and say that Asian people, China in particular, are better than black people, but not as good, not as good as white. It's the weird. It's weird, man. It's weird. It's like niggas gotta find a way to be second to somebody. You could be second to America right here, my nigga. Be second to America right here. Cause y'all don't want the leadership position. Y'all just want to be recognized. Anyway, that's today's hood history. Man, drop your suggestions if you want something else. And I'm out. Support No Organic.